Hey everyone, this is the first video in a two-part series where we're going to build a REST API and we're going to use node.js, Express, and MongoDB. And the concepts that are used in this video are not too complex. So if you're unfamiliar with these languages, it's okay because if you have some knowledge of JavaScript, you can easily build a REST API. So what is a REST API? An API is a application programming interface, and it is a set of rules that determine how applications will communicate to each other. And an example of this is when we type weather and our city name in Google, it returns the temperature data. So there's a set of rules in the API saying when a city is entered, we have to return a temperature data. So what is REST? REST is the representational state transfer, and these are the rules that the API will follow. And one of the advantages of using REST is that our web applications can be used across various platforms like Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, and we can perform different database functions through it. So this will be used when we want to get a student information. Let's say we have a student database and we want to get the information of the student. We would have a GET request. If we want to create a new student, we would use a POST request, and so on. Now, before we get started, we need some applications and we need to have the right environment set up. So let's go through that. Now, the first software we need to download is node.js, and I recommend downloading the LTS version. And once you download this application, which I've already downloaded, we're going to make a new folder called REST API. And this is a folder where we'll store our application. And you can use any type of IDE you want to build this application, but if you don't have an IDE, you can download Visual Studio Code from Microsoft, which is free. And I will be using Visual Studio throughout this application. So once you download that and get it set up, first drag your folder in here. And now we can get started with building this API. So first, let's open up a new terminal. And we need to initialize the program. So we go npm init. Package name REST API is good. That is good. Description, you can add anything you want. 2 point, that is good. And if you have a Git repo that you want to set up, you can do that here. I'll leave this blank. Author, type your name here. License, is this okay? Everything is good. So after we initialize our application, let's install Express. And to do that, we go npm install Express, save. Now this will install Express, and npm is a node package manager, and it comes with Node, so you don't have to install that from anywhere else. And once Express is installed, we also need to download MongoDB server, and the link for that, all of these will be in my blog that I will attach in the description. So first go here and download your Node application. Then we're going to install Node, npm install MongoDB, mongoose, and save that. Now you should have all the installation there. And if you want to check your Node version, this means you've installed it. Your version might be different from mine. Check your npm version. This is showing that you have this application installed. So we are going to test that the server is running first. So let's do that by creating a new file called index.js, and there will be a code that I will paste here. And basically what this is doing is that we are importing Express, and we are initializing Express, and we're choosing a port number, which is 4000 here. And when we go to the root of the application, it's going to send a message saying your Node and Express server is running on this port. And we will also print to the console that our REST API is running on this port. So to test that, we will run this application, which we'll do by doing node and the name of the JavaScript file, which is index.js. Run that. Oh, I did not save the file, so save your file and run it again. Now we see that the REST API is running on port 4000. Now we also want to check this on our browser. So let's go on our browser, localhost 4000 is our port, and you will see this message here saying your Node and Express server is running. So for our project, we're going to use a MVC architecture, and MVC stands for Model View and Controller. And our controller will process HTTP requests, our model will manage the database, and our root will provide different API endpoints. And so we need a folder structure that we need to create here. So let's go through that. So let's create a new folder called source or src. Make a new folder inside there. Let's call it controller. And in source, we're going to create another folder called model. And another folder called route. And in controller, a new file. Let's just call it conda.js. It's not valid. Let's call it restcon. Let's call this rest model. On this rest route.js. Now, before our index.js was handling the GET request, now we're going to make our route handle all the GET, POST, PUT, and DELETE requests. And for that, I will get some code here. So what we do here is we make a new function called allRoute, and we go to the path of /student, and student comes from our database, which manages some list of students. And when there's a GET request, we issue a response for that GET, which is to respond with a message saying successful GET request. And for a POST request, it will be a successful POST request. And for delete and put, since we are changing the information of a specific student, we're going to need a student ID, which we'll generate from the database later on. And then we're going to export this allRoute function. And our index.js is going to import that function. So let me do that here. So what this is saying is we're importing Express, and we're importing the allRoute function that we just created here in our REST route. And we select the port, then we send Express, which is stored in app, to this function here. Now, one more thing we have to do is check our package.json file. Here we will see our dependencies, which has Express, MongoDB, and Mongoose, which means all our installation went through correctly. And we have to add one more line here saying type and module. And this is because we're exporting and importing, which means we'll need to use modules to do that. Now let's check everything is working. And we can do that through the browser, but later on we will have to download a software called Postman. So let's do that right now. And once you download this app, we can see how that works here. And because our application is not going to have any front end, to interact with the API, we're going to use the Postman service. And for doing that, you have to go to your environment and you will make a link here, first to student. Your localhost 4000 is your port number, and student is your path, in which we have get requests and post requests. So let's run this file here. Everything is saved, which is good. Let's run that file and let's make a get request to student. We can see that this was successful. Let's make a post request, which is also successful. And let's pass in some random parameters here, which doesn't matter because right now we are not connected to the database. And let's test our put, which is successful, and also our delete request. So this is just to verify that all our routes are working correctly. So later when we connect to our database, everything will be working correctly. So thank you for watching the video, and in the next video I will set up the database and we'll get the API working with that.